Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. How is everyone doing? I'm tuning in live from Orlando, Florida, in the Sunshine State, and today the sun is out. I always like to report when it's actually sunny in the state of Florida. Thank you all for joining me on today's webinar. It is not Fundraising Friday, but it's the day before, and today we're going to be talking about fundraising on social media, how to do it well, and what is new in 2026. I put together about a 20-ish page a deck for you guys today. And we're going to be going through everything that's shifted in the last 5 years and how different social media is these days. Wonder if I can. No. Okay. All right, today we're going to be talking about fundraising on social media. First up, I'm going to give you my credentials as your host. If you've attended my webinars before, you already know what to expect. And it looks like about 60% of you, maybe 70% of you have already been to our webinars before. So who am I? Why should you be tuning in? My name is Christy Morris. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer over at Sneakers for Good, and I am also your YouTube host. I have been hosting webinars with Funds2Orgs for going on my 6 years now, and I've been with the overall brand fundraising company for 8 years. Just celebrated my 8 years last week. When did I grow up? I grew up during the time of AIM, so AOL Instant Messaging, the dial-up era when you had to get off the internet to use the phone. Great times, core memories. What am I good at? Brand strategy, creative taglines, visual storytelling. I've been in marketing for 15 years now. Still, that blows my mind because I'm just like 20. Actually, I'm not that old. I like to host parties. I keep a Google spreadsheet of all of the top places to visit in Orlando because I am a psychopath about restaurants and cafes and things to do. So if you ever need that, you know where to find me. And I love hosting these webinars. I also love taking our 2 dogs on adventures, and traveling the world is my other passion. So that's a little bit about me. Let's talk about how the landscape has changed in 2026. Okay, social media is no longer just for awareness. Now, I've done this webinar before. I probably do it every 2 years. Things have changed since 2023, since 2021. So let's talk about it. Today, in 2026, 4.9 billion people use social media. That's billion with a B. 55% of people who engage with a nonprofit take action of some sort. Giving Tuesday also shows that social sharing continues to influence first-time donors. This is very important. And mobile accounts for more than half of nonprofit website traffic. So platforms matter, but what's even more important in 2026 is clarity, trust, and ease. There's some really great nonprofits out here that are doing well with this, and I included about 12 videos, 10 or 12 videos, as well as several screenshots of nonprofits that are doing some great things over the last couple of years. So what's shifted since 2021? I wanted to give you a nice 5-year kind of overview and scope. In 2021, people were just, when I say people, I really mean nonprofits. Nonprofits tend to react just a bit slower than maybe brands who have a lot more money and backing and what have you. And that's no fault of your own, because I do understand a lot of you are, small teams. I met a woman the other night at a We Are for Good event, and she was a 1-woman team, and she was going on to have like a $500,000 budget for her nonprofit with 1 woman, and she was actually sourcing people to join her board and her team. So I know that a lot of you are small teams, but in 2021, nonprofits were just getting involved in understanding how the different platforms work, how to use TikTok, how to use Reels, what was short form content. 5 years later, now in 2026, there's been a big shift, and discovery is happening faster, but But in order to get that donation, in order to get that follow, in order to get them to register for your emails, it is requiring more trust, and it's requiring more hand-holding as they move through the funnel. And I have a slide in here all about like the new social media funnel for nonprofits and technically brands as well. But let's talk about social media use as of 2025. 84% of those who are 18 to 29 years old use TikTok daily. Now, I've been talking about this for a couple years. TikTok, since COVID in 2020, has blown up. There's been a couple times that there was conversation of TikTok going away. It is still here. I don't see it going away in the foreseeable future. I am, however, seeing a lot of other social media apps popping up, hoping to fill that void of, what Instagram used to be, 10 years ago. And I think that's super fascinating. We're not going to talk about those today because a lot of them are very small. A lot of them are still in beta testing. And I really think that we need to see how they do and will the growth take on. Usually early adopters of new social platforms are always going to be that younger generation. So don't worry about hopping on every new platform. Focus on the big five, right? So I have 4 of those listed up here. Millennial giving increased 22% in 2025. Millennials continue to give more year over year. And eventually, I do think they are going to overtake the baby boomers in total giving. And millennials and Gen Z are more likely to give online gifts, which makes smartphones and mobile giving so important. Percentage of Americans using social media, 84% use or have used YouTube. 71% at Facebook, 50% at Instagram, and 37% at TikTok. What is trending now on social media? I've outlaid 5 major things, and some of these you've seen before, and I'm sure this is no different than what you're doing, but this is what the algorithm wants today. So I'm going to dive deeper into that, but first, short form vertical content. So that's up and down. When you need that horizontal content, with the phone going flat, is going to be more so for YouTube and long form content. Storytelling, mobile optimization, social proof. So that's going to be that peer-to-peer influence, that third-party validation, getting other people to talk about your nonprofit. And then retention-based content. And what I mean by retention-based content is content that gets people to stay involved in your social media, a part of your community, and continued giving. And that doesn't mean that you're constantly making an ask. A lot of times it means you want them to share the story with their friends, that you want them to watch, the impact that their latest gifts have made. So you really want to focus on multiple things, but retention-based content is how you're going to grow your community. Okay, let's continue. Social drives discovery before giving. Now, what that means is that social media provides a validation for people before they give. And for a younger generation, even more so because they are online chronically. Recent nonprofit sector research shows that donors are more likely to research the cause on social media prior to giving. So what I really recommend, especially for Instagram, is utilizing your highlights. If you have multiple missions or impact projects, if you have, let's say you're doing clean water and you have wells in different countries, having a different project for each of those and highlight for each of those so people know what they can give to. And the very last slide should be that donate call to action button. Video content increases recall and trust faster than static posts. So instead of those graphics that you see, graphics are important. They help break up the feed. They also allow you to convey information very clearly. But studies show that people don't retain that as much as watching what a video does. That's why video storytelling is so important these days. Donors also exposed to impact content before an ask are more likely to convert at higher rates. So your campaign should always educate first and then invite to join second. You don't always want to be making an ask. A lot of these slides I also include where I pulled this research from, so you kind of have an idea and background of where I'm gathering this. You're going to recognize most of the names: Nonprofit Pro, Nonprofit Tech for Good, Blackbaud, Pew Research, Rival, etc. So in the last couple of years, let's talk about some of the top 10 nonprofits on social media. This report was pulled, I believe, at the end of 24 going into 2025. Surprisingly enough, I'm not sure how many of you are terrified of bats. I think bats are pretty cute. I think they're little sky puppies. But a lot of people are quite scared of them. And surprisingly, the Bat Conservation International was ranked one of the highest nonprofits alongside these other 9. So American Ballet Theater, Planned Parenthood, Innocence Project, the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights, ACLU, Amnesty International, National Trust, Seattle Humane, and HATAP. HATAP is actually a European animal rights federation, and I learned about that during my research. So how did Bat Conservation International, or BCI, as I like to call it, win? Well, they made bats less scary. They spent a lot of time educating their users, their supporters, and just viewers, the people that were scrolling on by, about bats, protecting bats, conservation, etc., with memes, with graphics, and with video storytelling. So a couple examples on the left, you can see BCI over here. They, for spooky season, which is around Halloween, they did this whole campaign about how bats are spooky scary, but they're very sweet. And on the right, you see a post from Greenpeace International on Pride Month. And then I have some other examples here. So we've got
it's been proven time and time again that films that embrace diversity and inclusion genuinely perform.
So I've got a couple videos here from ACLU as well as the Seattle Humane. I hope you guys can hear the sound because, oh no, the light just turned off on me. Did you guys see that? I hope you can hear the sound of that video because that was quite funny. All right, I've got some other examples of top performing nonprofits here. Here's a couple examples from the Innocence Project as well as their engagement total. As we move deeper into 2026, I should say, over the years, followers has been more, it's basically become more of a vanity metric. And really what you want to be paying attention to is your engagement. How often are people liking, commenting, sharing your content, or even saving your content so they can come back to it later or share it with a friend? That engagement is so important because it lets you know what type of content people are interacting with. Okay, this is the new 2026 social funnel. Let's talk about it. So we have here awareness, engagement, participation, donation, and retention. So the awareness, your top of your funnel, is where people are finding you and discovering you on social media. When you get them to engage, that is when they move on to the next step. And basically, too often, nonprofits try to move from awareness to donation. So they're jumping 2 extra steps there. They're not getting people to engage with their nonprofit, learn from them, understand with them, or even participate, join their events, volunteer, etc. They are just moving straight from, hey, you saw us, please donate to us. In 2026, that's not going to work. Campaigns support, the strongest campaigns support donors through every step of the way. So supporters need time and awareness to make a donation, and they need clarity and context, and they want to feel something before they give these days. Okay, Short form video is still dominant. Industry data from Meta and TikTok research shows the first 3 seconds are going to determine the retention rate of your video. So that's why you always pay attention to that 3-second and that 10-second. That's going to gauge the longer they stay on, the more intentional, well, not intentional, but the more engaging your content is. Vertical video does still perform out better than horizontal in in-feed environments. So think Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. YouTube, obviously different. Unless you're on YouTube Shorts, you're going to want that horizontal content. Simple captions ensure increased watch time. I do think there's a balance to that, where your caption is just like an overview and you let your video tell the story. But if your video is not very text heavy and there's not a voiceover, you may want to utilize your caption to really explain what people are saying and what's going on. Videos should always show the impact. They should show the community behind the impact, and they need to show what is being required of them. Authenticity is always going to outperform polish. So yes, there are some incredibly produced videos out there for nonprofits that are, spending money on videos and editors, but authenticity is always going to win here. Okay, I've got some more incredible examples for you, and I can provide this deck later if you email me, and I will put my email in the chat.
It's happening right now. In Ghana, hundreds of women are living in camps, accused of witchcraft and banished by the community. It's happening.
And then another great example by the American Ballet Theater Company, who also ranked top 5 nonprofits in the last 2 years. Okay, that's highly impressive. Examples, short form video content, talking to them or showing something. I also wanted to share a couple more examples here. The American Ballet Theater Company, their engagement total, that was following Giving Tuesday. So basically what they did is for their donations, they did interactions and performed based on how much was given. And then we also have the Seattle Humane Society and some information about their adoptions. Again, what we're looking for here is video post views. All of you guys are doing great work. These are just a few examples and some people that you can follow. And maybe if you feel like your social media has a lot of room to grow, you might want to follow some of these and see what strategies are working for their audience. Not all of them are going to work for the type of work that you're doing, but there's definitely ways that we can learn from each other, even those that are in the same mission work as well. So I wanted to talk about some best free and paid platforms to help you on your social media journey. First up, we've got Canva. I'm sure you already know all about this. Canva is great for design. It's great for editing, flyers, quick designs if you don't have a designer. CapCut, that is our social team's favorite video editing tool. They also have some really good templates. Scroll is a newer one. Right now, you may have seen that carousels, specifically those that are collage formatted, are performing really, really well. Also, Adobe Lightroom. This is great for creating a template and filter for your photos and utilizing that template all the way through. So when you do upload photos, it matches your brand. And then lastly, I just wanted to give an honorary shout out to Reddit. I know I've been talking about this one a lot in the last year, but I do think that Reddit is quite an unlikely social media platform. It's great for understanding what's going on in niche areas, good for social listening, understanding, what people are facing, and even maybe connecting with those in different communities with the work that you do. Okay, let's talk about our top tips for fundraising. So first up, not every nonprofit does this, but this is a capability that you have on Meta's fundraising tools. This is an example of a Facebook page for St. Jude. St. Jude is a wonderful, wonderful incredible organization. We've partnered with them over many years, but they here are utilizing Facebook Meta's fundraising tools, where they have the donate button right at the top of their Facebook page, where you can choose to follow or you can choose to donate. Now, there's a few things that you want to be clear on. You don't always want to utilize an ask for your CTA. You don't always want to say donate, donate, donate. You want to diversify your call to action. Sometimes you want to ask for a share. Sometimes you want to ask for a like. Sometimes you just want to ask them to watch the video. Maybe that video is going to, cause a reaction for them to want to give. Experiment with your content, especially on paid advertising. I was this close to including some stuff on paid advertising, but really paid media, and that is going to be a whole deck on its own, honestly. So I did not include anything on Facebook advertising, but I highly recommend you A/B test your content, your captions. You are very close to the work that you do, and what you may like is not always going to match what your audience wants, and you need to listen to your audience. You need to pull them. You need to pay attention to what's actually working and lean into that, because you may like something that you worked really hard on, that you edited the heck out of, but the audience just didn't engage with that. Maybe they engaged with a meme that you were like very surprised about. So you want to always A/B test your content, look at your analytics, and lean into that. Utilize polls and surveys, especially on your Instagram stories, in feed posts, Facebook stories. Post consistently, and always, always, always respond to comments and messages frequently. Don't let 3, 4, 5, 10 days go by before you respond to these people. A lot of times when someone comments, they're wanting to understand better. Yes, there is spam. And sometimes you do have to hide people that, are using not so nice language. But you always want to respond to comments. And it is nice to have, some discourse in your comment section, especially if you have a video kind of blowing up. You want to respond to them and show that transparency, especially if they are asking maybe difficult questions, or questions that you might get from a DM. You want to explain that, and you want to not necessarily position yourself, but you want to show transparency in how you answer your community. Okay, I've got some more examples for you guys here. Can you guys, I hope you guys can hear this.
Hey bartender, you assume that I cannot drink a margarita, so you don't serve me a margarita? So I don't drink a margarita.
So that was the National Down Syndrome Society on TikTok. They have a very active TikTok and following. They're doing incredible work over there. I think for nonprofits to follow, them and Doctors Without Borders do some great work on TikTok. This video.
Wow. 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 Wow.
That is a great example of how a nonprofit can utilize a trending sound, but make it about their organization. And lastly, we've got Doctors Without Borders. This is over here on their Facebook. What I'm doing here is showing you their work, how they're utilizing different functions. This one is called My Love Has No Borders, and you can actually click on it to shop and support Doctors Without Borders. Okay. Now, segmentation is not necessarily important for social media specifically, but if social media is the funnel in which they came into your nonprofit, and you get them to either fill out a form through Meta's fundraising tools like lead gen forms, or you send them to a landing page and they fill out a form, join your newsletter, whatever that may be, you want to pay attention to how they came into your funnel. Now, Again, I'm not digging into paid advertising or email marketing today, but the way you can see this is through your GA4. That's Google Analytics. And you want to ensure that's already set up on your website because it has a wealth of information of how people landed on your website, where they came from, whether that was social media, Google, ChatGPT now is showing up on GA4. There's all these different places that they could have come into your website, and you really want to pay attention to the user journey. Pay attention to your traffic funnels, all of that. Now, when they come through and they land up on your email list, your CRM, whatever that is, you want to segment them. So you don't need all of these segmentation types, but these are a few that you can work with. So communication preference, this one's really big for me, and I know I've said it before. I actually prefer when nonprofits text me. For most of the nonprofits I work with, I choose that as the function over email because I have 10 email inboxes and they're always flooded. I'm always inundated with emails. A lot of times I'll even ask them to like send me a link to the newsletter rather than actually emailing it to me. Age range, location range. If your nonprofit operates in multiple areas, pay attention to how they came into the funnel, where that was at. Persona, that's going to be their needs versus their value proposition. Event versus digital acquisition. This one's super important. Did they come in through an actual in-person activation, or did they come in through a Facebook or TikTok or an Instagram funnel? Some of these you might not need, but that can help build your persona, education, job. Oh, I've got age range on there twice. We'll remove that later. And then last couple ones here, donor type and behavior. Have they donated just one time? Have you reactivated them? Did they make one donation? And have you followed up with them? Did you show them what you did with their gift? Are they a small donor, a recurring donor, a large donor? If they're a large donor, and we talk about this a lot in my email marketing webinar, but if they're a large donor, they should not get the same automated email that someone that donates $10, $20, or $50. Someone who's going to be donating $500, $1,000, $10,000, they should be getting very different custom emails from you or your development team. And then lastly, the most important one, and I say this because I'm a marketing girly, how did they hear about you? This is one of the most important things that you can put on your form and when you connect with those donor types, whether that's on phone, via email, text, whatever. If it's not embedded in your phone or form, if it's not embedded on your form on your website, make sure that it's a follow-up on your next ask. You want to find out, did they find you through social media? Did they do a web search and they found you? Was it on ChatGPT? Because a lot of people are using chat as a search function these days. Pay attention to how they heard about you because that's going to inform how you spend your marketing dollars and where you put your time, energy, and efforts. Okay. Community and peer influence. So Giving Tuesday research continues to show peer influence matters. When supporters share their participation, tag their friends, and post impact updates, participation will increase. So you want campaigns that involve and invite involvement, not just donations. So how can people get involved? That's not just saying, hey, open your wallet, write me a check, donate here. You want other ways that they can get involved. For example, I'm working with a new nonprofit here locally in Orlando, and I'm helping them with their marketing. And I am doing that because I can't give them anything else at this time. So I'm giving them my time and I'm giving them my marketing support. Next, this is very important. And I think this is something that really gets lost. You need to be very specific to each platform you're posting on. Now, Meta makes it very easy. When you post something on Facebook, you can share it to Instagram or vice versa. I see this happen all too often with nonprofits. You just see a video and you're like, push to Instagram, also push to Facebook. No, you need to have different captions for the different audience types. And your analytics will show you how different your audience is. And I see this all the time. Usually you're going to have a bit younger audience on Instagram and an older audience, more mature audience on Facebook. and an even younger audience on TikTok. So you want to pay attention to that. And you want to write captions and post content that's specific to that. Now, yes, you can reuse certain videos, certain graphics. Of course you can. But your captions and the way you speak to that audience should be different. For example, that St. Jude trend with the wow of Owen Wilson, that trend was a trending sound on TikTok. That video, it's not going to perform the same over on Facebook. It's not going to get that same click-through rate and that same kind of engagement because it's a trending sound on TikTok. So when you create something, especially for TikTok and Instagram, it's not always going to be the exact same thing that you push to Facebook. Static content does perform better over on Facebook. So what are each of these good for? Facebook, older donors, community groups, long storytelling. Instagram is great for visual storytelling, short form reels, and educational content in the form of carousels. TikTok, love this for reaching the younger audience. This is great for discovery awareness and educational impact. LinkedIn is good for corporate partnerships and CSR initiatives. Also providing professional credibility on who's on your team, etc. If you have a board, asking them, to add your nonprofit to their profile so that they show up on more audiences. That is really key. And then long form content with a shelf life where the audience can understand your mission better. Okay, let's talk about a clear call to action. I included here the Best Friends Animal Sanctuary. They also made the top 10 nonprofits, not in overall, but on Instagram. So make sure that your CTA matches the moment of what you're trying to convey. Again, we're not always using please donate, please click here to donate, whatever way you're kind of framing that. On here, it's kind of small to say, but they say to stay up to date with our mission with the Casper Foundation, follow along using the link in our bio. So their ask there was to use the link in the bio to engage them with the Casper Foundation. And I'm sure that link in the bio made it very easy for them to either follow them, engage with a newsletter, or get on a specific email list for that collaboration. Sometimes it's learn more, start the fundraiser, share this story. Yes, I know money is important. So yes, you're still going to ask, for donate today. Sometimes it's a challenge, a viral challenge. We all remember that ice bucket challenge that went super viral years ago. But every post should include one clear next step. And then always follow up with gratitude and results. Respond to those comments. Every time you engage with people who are commenting on your Instagram and your Facebook, that further boosts in the algorithm. Okay, before we get to our giveaway, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Funds.org. I'm sure the 60-70% of you that have already joined already know who we are, and then we're going to do our Q&A. So who is Funds.org? We serve schools, nonprofits, civic groups, animal rescues, faith-based organizations, anyone and everyone who is looking to fundraise. We're an alternative fundraiser with a headquarters in Orlando, Florida. Obviously, that's where I am. And we support 4,000 families of microenterprises in the reuse economy. And that's across 20 developing countries worldwide. Now, what's a shoe drive fundraiser? Great question. It's a creative, non-traditional fundraiser in which your group can raise funds without having to ask your supporters to open their wallets. So instead, you're going to ask them to clean out their closets and get paid to collect gently worn used and new shoes. It's 100% profit fundraiser. There's no out-of-pocket costs. We provide everything from collection materials and marketing templates to a dedicated fundraising coach that's with you every step of the way. You get a check within 2 days of receipt and processing, and you get a feel-good fundraiser. Our mission statement, our vision statement is actually to create opportunities locally to impact people globally. And you see that down there at the bottom. Here is a few of our wonderful fundraising partners. We're going to jump into the giveaway and Q&A next. If you'd like to join our Facebook group or learn more, you can follow us here or go to fundsorgs.com to get involved. Let's answer some questions about fundraising on social media. Okay, so here we've got any experience with short form content on YouTube versus platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels? Yes. So I have spoken to many nonprofits about this. And while I think YouTube Shorts is good, I don't think you need to actively create a different strategy for it. I think whatever you put on your Instagram Reels easily translates over to YouTube Shorts. So save that content from Instagram Reels without any branding, because any watermarking gets blocked by each other's algorithms. So make sure it doesn't have like the Instagram watermark or the TikTok watermark. Take that content and schedule it onto YouTube. There are plenty of ways that you can automate this process. But I think anything that you make for Instagram Reels can easily go over into YouTube Shorts. Now, YouTube specifically is going to be more of your long form content, your long ways content, where people can sit on their phone or their TV or even their desktop, an iPad, and watch long form content. So that is not going to be anything that you post on Reels or TikTok. That is going to be very much more about the work that you're doing, about your mission, educational work. All of that is going to go here. Okay. So Terry wanted to know about branding and your posts. Should it be similar or mix it up? That's a great question, Terry. I think one thing that you'll notice is you should pay attention to how brands do their social media. One thing that's happening very, very consistently right now from brands is that while their logo doesn't really change, they very much embrace other versions of their branding. I'm going to just mention a makeup brand right now, just because I saw a campaign from them and I thought they did a really good job. It's called Rhode. You may have heard of it if you like lip gloss or Hailey Bieber. But Rhode, their logo doesn't change. It's that white logo, lowercase font. That never changes. But when they do campaigns, they may blow their logo up and make it into a drippy cloud funnel thing. I know they did like this whole strawberry campaign and they did all their branding in pink, which again is not their normal thing. And they are very much experimental in how they embrace that. And I think the thing to take away here is to pay attention to what brands are doing and how they're running their social media, because nonprofits can learn a lot about a brand that is doing well on social media. And you can learn a lot from what other nonprofits are doing, like the BCI, the Bat Conservatory International, who has probably absolutely nothing to do with any of your guys' work. There's still something to be learned there. So I think that's super important. Yes, you want to keep your branding specific, but for campaigns and what have you, you can very much experiment with design, and you see it all the time with brands kind of branching out in how they show up, especially with pop-ups and events. You know, they keep their logo and stuff the same, but they really start creating these fun in-person experience and activations. The side of my plant. Okay, so Rose said that 2 weeks ago, I took over fundraising and marketing responsibilities at my org. I have no experience with fundraising and very little in marketing. How do I go about figuring out a brand story for our agency? What should I do first? I think you should do the marketing first, because your marketing is going to influence your fundraising and how you fundraise. And you really need to get your brand story down first. So storytelling, go with the 3 C's of storytelling. And I did that on a past webinar. And if you email me, I can probably send it to you. But the 3 C's of storytelling are characters, conflict, and change. So I would start there. That's how you're going to work on crafting your brand story. Character, conflict, change. So who's the character? What's the conflict? What are they facing? And then how can change happen? Because that's what you want to tell your donors. How can they be a part of this? How can they be the hero, the champion of your story? So definitely start with the storytelling and the marketing piece. There is a wealth of knowledge and free information out there on storytelling, and there's plenty of free courses on social media and what have you. A lot of the people that put on the free courses for social media are trying to sell you something, but there is a wealth of knowledge out there, not only on YouTube, but just like on Google. And you can even ask ChatGPT or Claude to help you describe what your nonprofit does and put together a strong story and refine it from there. I very much use Claude and ChatGPT for outlines. And if I reach a creative funk and I don't know kind of where to twist and turn from there, I'll help it work through some things with me, outline different things, and then I go and I put it in our brand voice, or like this deck, I utilized ChatGPT to do some research for me, and I utilized Claude to refine some stuff for me. So I would highly lean into AI to help you make this process faster. And then, yeah, take some free courses. There's a really quick website called marketingexamples.com. And they have like 30-second to 2-minute reads on everything from like landing pages to email campaigns and like learning from other brands. And there's tons of other things out there. Places like Nonprofit Pro are great resources to follow and pay attention to. I also really like just following newsletters about marketing in general. So, you know, things like marketing by millennials. There's plenty. There's plenty out there. Oh, thank you, Regina. And Madison, I'm so glad you like that website. We're getting to the close of this webinar, so thank you to all of you who've stayed here with me for the last 50 minutes and spent your Thursday afternoon with me. I dropped my email in the inbox. As I mentioned, if you guys would like to do a shoe drive fundraiser, you can actually contact the team at this number that I'm putting in here. Okay. Or go to fundsworks.com and fill out one of our forms, and one of our fundraising coaches will be there to join you. Does anyone else have questions on fundraising on social media that I can help answer today? You guys have been so great. And I'm super excited about next month's webinar, so stay tuned. Make sure that you are getting emails from all the people from Funds to Orgs, so that you can stay tuned for our next webinar on AI and fundraising. And if there are no more questions, I'm gonna go ahead and say goodbye to you all and let you get back to all of the wonderful work you're doing. I'm gonna drop just a couple handouts in the sidebar for you. In case you are interested. One of these includes how does a shoe drive fundraiser work, and our bonus bucks, which is a current campaign that Funds to Orgs is working on right now, where you can earn more money for all of the shoes that you collect doing a shoe drive fundraiser. I don't see any more questions, but over here is where I put all of those handouts. Thank you so much for all of your kind words. Thank you for, being my banter and my back and forth in the chat today. I really appreciated you all kind of letting me know where you're tuning in from and all of the incredible work you're doing. And I will bid you adieu, but have a great Fundraising Friday tomorrow. I will see you guys next time. My name is Christy. This is Funds to Orgs, and I will see you all next month on our next webinar or on social media. You'll see me on social media. Thank you, everyone. Have a great Thursday.